You know, after finishing second last year, it's been hard work. You know, accepting the 8th and 9th that we've been getting. But you know, we're currently 5th in the championship. You know, we're putting in a massive effort, myself and BMW. So you know, hopefully, you know, we're going to keep plugging away and get closer and closer to them wins that we need to get.
We see on a fairly regular basis that you scrapping with people like Ayrton Badavini, who is on the satellite BMW bike as well. Is there a lot of information trade between the two camps, or are they pretty much going about things in separate directions?
You know, we're all trying to progress the bike in the best way we can, and you know, a few races this year we've not had it perfect, and we've had some good battles with it, and we've had some good battles with a lot of guys out there. You know, with the Scores and the Kawasaki's, and you know, it's been one of them things that, you know, when we get it right, we can finish top 5. We've only had a couple of podiums this year, but you know, we can do it, and you know, it's all about making that progression. It's really good that Ayrton's there with James Toseland, you know, because it gives a different idea and a direction, because you know, they're a proven ex-Ducati team that's working on the same bike as us, so you know, it's a really good team to have.
There's a lot of talk at the moment about where you might end up next year with BMW or elsewhere. What's the latest you can tell us on that, if indeed anything at all?
Yeah, you know, my commitment has been with BMW. It's my choice to kind of stay or go, but you know, I'd love to finish what I started here with BMW. I'm actually quite lucky at the minute. I've had a lot of you know, interest from all the other teams in the paddock, so you know, I'm lucky in that side of thing, and you know, I've got to make a decision reasonably soon, hopefully in the next month, and you know, we'll see what happens. But you know, I want to be in World Superbike, and I want to get back to winning ways.
And we want to see you back up there as well. Well, stay around, Leon, because we'll talk to you about BSB in just a moment. That is after James Whittam has done his grid walk before race 1. Whit's out there. So Whit, it's over to you.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, Leon. I'm back on row 4. The reason is because I'm with yesterday's winner from the first race of the weekend. You chose the right tyres, you did everything right, you built up a lead, you defended it at the end, you got the win, it was fantastic, and you're back on row 4. That doesn't seem that fair to me.
Yeah, it doesn't appear that fair. You know, a year and a half ago, all the teams agreed to a rule where, you know, the grid position for race 2 was determined by the first race. So
the fastest lap in the first race.
Yeah, well, by your lap times of the first race. So I mean, all the teams agreed to it. Maybe now it needs a review. Over the time, we've seen some flaws in that system, and I mean, an easy fix would be if everyone, whatever tyre you started the race on. You could go in and change your tyre, but you had to put a new one of whatever you started the race on, then problem's fixed. But I mean, as I said, it's up for review, maybe, is what's needed, but you know, maybe there's a time when the favour will be returned and I'll have a chance to be up the front when I've had a bad race. So, I mean, I'm not completely, you know, against the rule or anything like that. It's just today it hasn't really worked in my favour.
But you're at the top of the grid now. It's quite a steep hill if you're on the right-hand side of the grid. You're on the left. It's not too bad. If you're a bit frisky off the start, you can get away with this one, can't you? Yeah,
if you got to try and find the positives and everything, don't you? So, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Being up the top here is definitely better because you can ride away from the top of the hill a bit nicer. And, you know, I'll do everything I can in the first couple of laps to try and, you know, move my position up and then see where the race goes from there.
Josh, have a safe one.
Thank you.
Right, we'll go forward from here because I tell you what I want to do. I want to go and have a word with, if he's about, here he is, he's here, and he's with his mentor stroke, guru, I think you'd call it, Andrew Pitt, twice former World Supersport winner, this man. And I tell you what, working with him, it's doing him some good, but your hair is turning grey. You're turning into the silver fox, mate.
Me, that will.
Gary Mason, MSS Colchester Kawasaki, good ride for you yesterday. You filled up a little bit. Keep your glasses on if you get a good result today, because you're nearly crying yesterday, weren't you?
No, I'm not. I just so want to get in the top
I like it. It's been emotional. It's good you're passionate about your racing, mate.
Yeah, it is. Well, I put a lot into this, obviously, being here. I know I've had some criticism before, but, you know, I'm still here, still in the championship, and it's the best domestic championship in the world, and to be at the sharp end's nice, and that's what I want to be. I want to win races, I want to win championships, and the guys have given me a fantastic bike this year, so, and all respect to my boys, and obviously Andrew's helping me along the way.
Gary, have a good one, mate. We really enjoyed seeing you finish on the Ross and race today, and even if you were bubbling up, we enjoyed it, mate.
Nice. I just want to say happy birthday, Nick Morgan, our team boss's birthday today.
Yeah, 58 or 48, is he?
Yeah, something like that.
Cheers, Gary. Have a good one. Right, we're going to go forward now, where I have been told that Mr. Jonathan Palmer is on the grid somewhere. Now, he is the boss man, whenever we can find him. Oh, Nick Morgan's there. Tell you what, we're going to have a word with, we're going to go forward, have a word with Shane Byrne, actually. Here we go. Looking at the front row. You stay there, Mr. Brown. I'll just get around this side. Shane Byrne didn't quite work for you yesterday. We saw you go out there on weights. He was evil conditions, although not a lot of water down. I could hardly stand up on the grid, it was that slippery.
No, it was a disaster, wasn't it? We managed to change to an intermediate rear, but never got the front changed. The organisers were ushering us off the grid, so we didn't get a chance to change. And
at what point did you know that it was the wrong tyre?
From pretty much the minute I set off. You called it right when I was watching your commentary on TV, saying about not being able to turn. It was like riding on chewing gum, and you know, it was a difficult race, so we just pulled in. I knew I weren't going to get a good result, so we just tried to fight for a good grid position today, and that worked all right. So.
Did you know that Gary Mason had been battling it out for a rostrum? He was trying his heart out, and you were a lap down, but he didn't know that. When you came past him, he kind of nearly crashed about 3 or 4 times trying to get back on what he thought was a rostrum.
Yeah, but in my defence, James, I didn't know what they'd done either. You know,
no.
You're in a no-lose situation. I'm a racer, and I want to go forward.
No. The idea, I understand that the idea is to go as fast as you can all the time. I understand that.
Yeah, no, I didn't know whether or not Gary had done the same thing as me, or Michael had done the same thing as me, and I'm just trying to unlap myself. So I tried to make the moves as clean as possible, and I think they were very clean. And you know, hopefully Gary and I have spoken. We're cool anyway. So yeah, forget what you're reading. Some of the articles that have been printed, it's a load of nonsense, and we're cool and everything's happy.
Mr. Shaky, you're going to get better weather for this one, mate. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Right, and I'm told we can find Mr. Palmer wherever he is. No, we're not. Let's have a look. Where is he? Well, anyway, he's not there, is he? So we're going to have a word. We're going to go over here and we're going to have a word with Mr. Tommy Hill. Another one of the riders yesterday that went out on certainly a wet front. Did you have wet front intermediate rear?
Yesterday, yes. Not today.
And at what point did you realise that was... Did you know that was wrong as you went out? Because, to be honest, I'm stood on the grid and it had almost stopped raining. Although very greasy, there wasn't a lot of water down at all.
Yeah, when we went out on the sighting lap, the track was actually pretty damp, you know, and on the borderline of being wet. So we had a bit of discussion on the grid, and we made the choice. And then when I went out on the warm-up lap, it looked like it was drying too quick for us anyway. But it's too late to make a decision. So today we're on snow tyres.
And what, you know, when you're going out there and other people have got the right tyres, you've got the wrong, that's the most frustrating thing in the world, because you can do nothing about it.
No, you just speak to Michael Fish, the weatherman, and hopefully he can make it rain.
Typical Tommy Hill, totally unfazed about the situation. Good luck in this one, mate.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. We're unable to find Mr. Jonathan Palmer. I was actually just wanting to have a word with him about some rule changes for next year. We are not going to get that. So I'm going to get off the grid. The lads have got their helmets on. They don't want to talk to him anymore. They've got the race faces on. Tony, back to you, mate.
Thank you very much, Whit. Yes, the klaxons and bells and whistles are all going, so time to get off the grid, and Mr. Whitton will make his way back to the commentary booth. Leon Haslam is still with me here. Leon, let's talk BSB then, and talk about this tyre issue that's going on, for want of a better word, because there are some lads out there who are saying, if we're pretty guaranteed of a top 6 place and we're not going to make the podium, then we might start coming in, putting slick tyres in, heading back out with low fuel to try and bag a better grid position for the following race. What's your thoughts on that?
It's exactly right. You know, Josh Brooks won the race. He pushed the boat out to win that race, and is basically 4th on the grid for today. And you know, that's not a good situation for him. So you know, people like Tommy and Shaky, you know, if they're definitely not going to be in the top 3, they must as well come in and get a good grid slot for the next one. You know, it's a tough situation. You know, I think it's a really good idea that your race determines your grid place, but with the championship only basically being the last 3 rounds in the top 6, it really brings in this awkward loophole, really.
And of course that's magnified, amplified, if you will, as soon as we get a bit of rain coming down, tricky conditions. It was a bit of a misnomer yesterday out there, but we saw people like Michael Rutter out there on slicks, and that was a hell of a ride for him.
Yeah, you know, Rutter, you know, has got the experience all in the world, and I was sitting at home, like, telling everyone to go with an Inters, you know, he definitely not wets, and, you know, he pulled it out on the slick, so, you know, fair play to him, but, you know, it's really tough if it was an old championship where every race counted. I guarantee half the riders wanted to pitted yesterday, and, you know, they had to stick it out there on old tyres rather than doing what they did, so, you know, there's positive and negatives, but, you know, I like races as a whole championship. That's, you know, what I've been brought up with.
We've got 3 riders who did pit and change their tyres. That's Tommy Hill, Shane Byrne, Ryuichi Kiyanari. All 3 are on the front row of the grid. What do you make of their chances? You
know, I think, you know, Kiyo is definitely is going to come into its pace. I think Tommy and Shaky are on top form, and, you know, even down to Alex Lowe is on the 2nd row of the grid, and he's definitely got the pace, he's shown that, so I'll be really interested to see how he gets on as well.
Yeah, Alex Lowe's out there, one of these riders who is always exciting, sometimes a little bit controversial, but I know that you've got a keen eye on Alex, and his brother Sam, of course, out there in World Supersport. You really rate the Lowe's twins?
Yeah, Lowe twins are fantastic, you know, 20 years of age and both at top of the game, and you know, at the minute, you know, Alex has kind of been jumping around from team to team, which is really hard for any rider, but you know, once he finds his feet, he's proven he can be quick with his pole position at Thruxton, and you know, his Evo wins that he had before that.
Well, fingers crossed for him and everybody else. Leon, thanks very much. We'll let you go. You can hear the guys and they're heading off the grid onto their warm-up lap. So let's get underway then with the first MCE British Superbikes race of the day here at Brands Hatch, the second one of this weekend. And over to our commentators for this one. James Whittam has made his way back to the commentary booth where he sits alongside the man who will kick it all off. Over to you, Jack Bernicle.
Tommy Hill on pole position. Would you believe it's as long ago as 2003 on the Virgin Mobile Samsung Yamaha that he made his debut in British Superbikes. He qualified on the front row on a couple of occasions back then and was voted the Young Rider of the Year and received the Steve Hislop Memorial Trophy for his efforts. And here he is qualified on pole position after going out and setting that fastest lap of the race yesterday, coming in and changing onto slick tyres. We haven't got any problems with that kind of choice here because the weather is perfect. Shaky Byrne still leads the championship on 2:14 ahead of John Hopkins, now on 195. Tommy Hill marooned on 165 ahead of Michael Laverty, who says he wasn't quite brave enough on the intermediates when he finished 9th yesterday. Josh Brooks certainly was. He leapt to the front and burned up the race to win it. He's on 136. Yuichi Kianari is now the man slightly in the danger zone on 121, because with good scores for Michael Rutter and Gary Mason, 2nd and 3rd yesterday, they've closed right up on 108 and 106 ahead of Kirkham and Easton. Loris Baz is 11th ahead of Peter Hickman, who starts, of course, strongly from the second row of the grid. Chris Walker, 13th. He had a great ride yesterday. Westmoreland is 14th ahead of Linfoot, Alex Lowes, Martin Jessup, Tommy Bridewell, Glenn Richards and Ian Lowry, who got an 11th position for build-based BMW on intermediate tyres yesterday and is rewarded with a 6th row start. Tommy Hill heads up the front row from Ewan Lescores on the WSB Paul Bird Motorsport Kawasaki, Shaky Byrne and Yuichi Kianari on the HM Plant Hondas. Second row headed by Michael Rutter, the genuine Michael Rutter, who scored 2nd place on slicks remarkably ahead of Peter Hickman, Alex Lowes and Brock Parks. The third row of the grid is James Ellison, Martin Jessup, Gary Mason and John Hopkins, so at least Mason and Hopkins have a reasonable starting position. Josh Brooks heads up row 4 after winning yesterday ahead of Chris Walker, John Kirkham and James Westmoreland. James Ellison has gone into his pit box on the SMT SorryMate.com Honda. We don't know what the problem is there for the Cumbrian after a good race yesterday. But on pole position here, look at that front row. Tommy Hill, Ewan Lescores, Shane Byrne, Yuichi Kianari.
Here we go.
We've got 2 Englishmen, a Spaniard and a Japanese on the front. When the lights go out, the race is on.
Tommy carved across there.
Very
aggressive from Tommy, that.
He certainly made Ewan Lescores move over on the Paul Bird Motorsport Kawasaki. Lescores holding on in 2nd place. He did, of course, race here in 2008 and 8 in World Super Sport. And look at Rutter. Rutter scythes through to 3rd place on the Ducati. And then he drops downhill. Look at this.
And Rutter's the only man who's actually there on merit. He put slicks on and finished 2nd in the race, and that's where he got his grip position from. Most of the other guys at the front are there because they came in and put slicks and having made the wrong choice.
Hopkins has also made a good start in 7th. So too Brock Parks in 6th on the 2nd Paul Bird bike, and just ahead of him the Tyco Honda of Peter Hickman.
Yeah, Hickman's going good, about 5th at the minute. I think he's just got passed by a couple of people. Hopkins, one of them, maybe Laverty the other.
Yuichi Kianari got pummeled back to 8th place. There's number 100, Carl Harris on the split lap Aprilia. But we've certainly got some work to do for Yuichi Kianari, the defending champion. Look at this. There's number 17, Lescores, just behind him Rutter. Just behind him is an impatient Shaky Byrne.
Yeah, he's impatient. He's looking for a way past Rutter already.
And this is what an absolutely helter-skelter first lap at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. All 2.3 miles of it here in the beautiful Kent countryside. There's Hopkins carving beneath big Peter Hickman on the Tyco Honda. So the Samsung Crescent Suzuki moves through into about 6th place. The leader, Hill. The score, Rutter. There is Shaky Byrne. I beg your pardon. Byrne goes through inside. Oh, well, almost loses it.
Rutter went pinging up the inside of the scores, pushed him wide, and that let Shaky Byrne through. And it was all over the place. Shane Byrne cut it tight on Paddock Hill and lost the rear. He was going the whole way around. He's pushing.
So we've got Parks now back in front of Hopkins, Hickman, Alex Lowe's, Michael Laverty, Yuichi Kianari back to 10th place, 2 places further back than he was on the first lap. Josh Brooks, 13th, Gary Mason 1 place ahead of him. Graham Gowland, who rode a belting race to win the Evo class yesterday, finished 7th, had to start on the 5th row of the grid, he's 16th already.
Yeah, and that seemed the most unfair of all the grid positions. He worked so hard, did Gowland, and ended up on row 5, I think.
James Ellison, we've just glimpsed in the SMT Honda garage. He's out of the race. So too is the split lap Aprilia of Carl Bomber Harris. He has stopped with a technical problem at Druids. There are the 2 bright green Kawasaki's of the Paul Byrne Motorsport team. Remember, Brock Parks adapting to a superbike. He's racing the World Super Sport Championship at the moment. It's a big ask. He's just got overtaken by Hopkins. Hopper's on the move on the Samsung Crescent Suzuki. He splits the 2 Kawasaki's. And there's Hickman behind Parks.
Yeah, he needs to be on the move because the trio of Hill, the scores. In fact, it's actually Hill, Rutter and Shaky actually pulling away a little bit now. Hopkins needs to get onto this.
This is a pretty fascinating scenario. Kianari lies 6th in the championship and therefore in the showdown at the moment. The man just behind him, next in the 7th place, is Rutter, and Rutter is absolutely buzzing here. He's now up to 2nd place on bike number 6. Shaky's pressing him. Then there's a gap back to Lescores versus Hopkins.
What is it? About 13 points, did you say, from...
Yes.
Right, OK.
And at the moment, Keogh is back to 12th place, James. Gary Mason passed him on that lap. He's not running as he should. He's had problems all weekend. They said they were going to revert to his earlier settings of the weekend.
As we
see Hopkins at Hawthorns.
Yep, slips up the inside of the scores at Hawthorns, like you say.
So John Hopkins is really on the move. And when you see Hopper with those headphones on before a race, James, you think, is he into some kids' heavy metal stuff?
I'll tell you.
No, he is not. It's country and western. It's Montgomery Gentry.
Well, do you know, that's where I think I went wrong. I never had no headset or any music or a silly hat.
Michael Laverty beginning to make a move. He's dived past through Dingle Dell, got ahead of Brock Parks. So Laverty on the bright red and yellow Swan Honda with the green helmet. He's there through pressing the Tyco Honda now. He's ahead of Parks.
And look at this, the 3 are together at the front now. They've caught Tommy Hill.
That was a fast lap, 126.485. Shaky Byrne, fastest man on track in 3rd place.
Yeah, both him and Rutter were half a second up just about on Hill.
And here he goes, he wastes no time, cuts underneath Rutter at Druids. That does his teammate Kianari a slight favour.
You've got to say that when Shane Byrne comes past, it's fairly clean and there's no way back usually.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Same thing yesterday, as he pointed out. Now he's got Tommy Hill in his sights. These 2, of course, scored 0 points yesterday, coming in and changing the slick tyres to get themselves good starting positions. And look how they're benefiting from it now. Poor Brooks down in 13, having won so clearly yesterday.
Yeah, 4th row's a big ass round anyway, but particularly here, you need the start.
Look at the speed at which they're dropping to your picture, Jade. 170 plus miles per hour down Pilgrim's Drop. There is Kianari. Kianari just ahead of the number 2 machine of Josh Brooks and the number 40 machine, the 2nd Ducati of Martin Jessup. Down Dingle Dell. And now Tommy Hill getting pressed hard by Shane Byrne. The 2 very local boys, both of them called, of course, Kentish men. As they go down towards Clearways, out of Clearways, and drop into this long Clark curve. Oh, what a great sight. It's the Swan Yamaha leading the HM Plant Honda. They've just broken away a bit from the Rapid Solicitors Batham's Ducati of Michael Rutter. And then it's Hopkins, Lescores, Laverty rounding out the top 6. Ahead of Parks, Hickman, Alex Lowe's and John Kirkham.
Here comes Shane Byrne. He's had a little look going up into Druids. That seems to be his favoured passing point. He's close now.
James Shaky's got a bit frustrated about the fact he hasn't won a race since Thruxton, the 2nd race at Thruxton. He really feels that it's time that he started winning again, and
that's
he's pressing hard. It is.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, he's probably got a point there. Yeah, I'd be a bit disappointed.
He's had a 3rd, a 2nd, a couple of 2 thirds, a 2nd, a couple of 4ths since then, but never got near a victory.
Yeah, coming up to the showdown part of the championship. Just one round left after this Brands Hatch round, and then we go into the last 3 that's going to decide the championship. That's close. How close is that? Yeah, you really need to not only get the podium credits, but you need to build up a little bit of momentum that's going to sort of push you. Oh dear, Shaky's trying so hard. The track drops away down there, you know, and it's easy to lose the back end. He's trying so hard. I don't know whether Shaky's gone for a soft tire, because that thing is sliding around a lot. Everywhere.
Ewan Lescores has regrouped a bit as he gets to grips with Brands Hatch on a superbike. He's now just hanging in behind number 7, Michael Laverty. And that's it. It's 140 miles an hour down Dingle-Dell, and that Honda was squirming everywhere down there.
Yeah, and it's one of those corners where it's all right, but there is a barrier there. It's somewhere back off the track, but it always catches your eye and you think, no. I don't know how much I want to be sliding down here.
And again, he's bucking and weaving as he tries to get the power down early up Halewood Hill. Clips round Druids Hill bend.
Tommy Hill on the Swan Yamaha looks the most settled of the 2 to me, and Hopkins is putting some laps in now. Hopkins is not as far back as he was.
No, he's clipped a couple of tenths of a second out of the riders in front, as we see number 67, Shaky Byrne, dive for the inside line over Surtees.
Yeah, it keeps it tight. There's no way back for Tommy Hill there. All he can do is get in the slipstream and try and just suss out where Hill's quick and where he maybe have a little bit of an advantage over him.
So the front 3 have closed up together. Michael Rutter running this pace as we watch Byrne, Hill, Rutter. Hopkins is the man who's closing the gap now in 4th place on the Samsung Trent.
And it will give Tommy Hill a little bit of confidence if he's able to stay with Shane Byrne. He'll be able to see him sliding around, because Shane Byrne is still sliding around, and that always gives you confidence. You think, well, you know what, I've probably got a little bit better tyre than the rider who's just passed me has.
So just over quarter distance here in this 20-lap second race of the weekend for the MCE Insurance British Superbike Championship in association with Pirelli, coming to you on Eurosport Television. Look at Rutter getting the power down early as the Ducati got the speed. Ooh, not far off.
Did you see the big long slide that Michael Rutter had? And you can tell if it's as long as that, he didn't actually close the throttle. He's just rolled the throttle, so he's still driving, still putting the rubber onto the track. He doesn't want to lose any time, that's why.
The other fast man, fastest on the track on that lap, Michael Laverty in 5th, 126.613 in the top of your picture.
Yeah.
Josh Brooks has finally wrestled his way past Chianari into 12th place. Chianari now on 3 points in 13th.
And it's Hopkins again, as quick as anybody. Hopkins and Laverty quicker than the leading 3.
The positions. This is Alex Lowe's. Just ahead of Peter Hickman. Yep. This is 7th and 8th place. John Kirkham now into 9th place there, and 3rd man on that picture of the green helmet brigade.
The big lad on the Suzuki.
This is getting really fascinating. As we stand right now, if Keogh were to finish the race where he is, and Rutter, they'd be level on points in 6th place in the championship.
Yep, that's close. Rutter needs this.
Why, I tell you what, Miss Polly Ranson, instead of giving me a hard time at grammar school, she'd be impressed with my maths now.
Was she a bit of a looker, was she, Polly Ranson?
She was a gross old bat, mate. Shaky Byrne, Tommy Hill and Michael Rutter at the front. 4th Hopkins, 5th Laverty, 6th Lescores ahead of Lowe's, Hickman, Kirkham and Gary Mason, 10th now ahead of Brock Parks. Oh, and the Tommy Hill having another look.
Yeah, that's how it would look if it finished the way it is now. And this is the important bit, looking down at 6th. Look, Chianari 6th.
On 124, that's what I meant. Michael Rutter, if he could hold on to that 3rd place, and there's no guarantee of that, but he would be level on points, and Mason wouldn't be so far back on 112. Chianari's now 14th, he's dropped another spot to Martin Jessup. What is going on in the HM plant Honda camp? Adrian Gorse must be tearing what little hair he's got left out.
What are you on about? Jessup's no mug. Remember, he qualified really well.
Yeah, but Chianari's a 3-time champion, James. He's a winner of World Superbike races. He's the 4-time winner of the Suzuka 8 Hours.
Oh, here you go. That's Lowe's. He's been off track. That's Alex Lowe's. He runs straight on somewhere there.
Well, his team boss, Nick Mormon, said he'll enjoy his 48th birthday, whatever happens. And it is 48, not 58.
I know. I knew that. It was a joke. That's what I do.
15th place now for Gowland, once again leading the Evo class. Great ride on the WFR Honda.
This is a 5-way dice, this now, Jack, look.
It is. Michael Laverty has crept in with that last lap at 1:26.5. That was almost 7/10 quicker than Hopkins, just ahead of him.
Yeah, Hopkins now dropped into the 27s, just like the leading three, but they're certainly all doing the same times.
Hill was just under the 27 mark on that lap. This really is a 5-way colossal contest. So we've got Honda, Yamaha, Ducati, Suzuki and Yamaha in the top 5.
Yep.
Johan Lescours having a strong ride, the elegant Spaniard there in 8th. Then look at this lot: Hickman, Kirkham, Mason, Brooks. There is Kianari being pressed now by number 81, Graham Gowland.
Being passed by Gowland, I think.
And Gowland just goes underneath the Japanese rider and just wisps away. So Graham Gowland from Allendale in the Tyne Valley in Northumberland is now through to 13th place.
Yeah, Gowland qualified well. He didn't sit well on this grid, but he sat well on the original grid, going off timed qualifying. And I spoke to Glenn Richards, his teammate, on exactly the same bike, the Evo Honda, and he said that the time that Gowland put in on that was quite incredible. He says he doesn't know how he did it. He must be riding the wheels off the thing.
And Shaky still looking untidy down Dingle Dell, but he's so far holding up. We're approaching the half distance in this pretty mega second race of the weekend for the British Superbike Championship.
I can just about remember being in a position where you've caught the leading 2 or 3 and there's a bit of a bunch in front of you and you've caught them from way back. You've plenty of time left to make a difference, and you think, right, here we go, boys, have a look at this. And then sometimes it goes wrong.
So crossing the line onto their 10th lap of 20, and it's Shaky Byrne and a leg dangling Tommy Hill ahead of Michael Rutter, Hopkins and Laverty. The scores fairly isolated in 6th place. Peter Hickman in a terrific contest for 7th with John Kirkham, and Josh Brooks now 9th, Gary Mason 10th. That really is a battle for good points for the top 6.
Look at the timing screen. Hickman's just put his fastest lap in 1:27 dead, and that is as fast as the leader Byrne did on the last lap.
It is. So the Tyco Honda beginning to find some real momentum there underneath the tall, well, he's a plasterer actually, Peter Hickman, qualified as a plasterer, now driving fans.
All those big strong lads plasters, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, with one arm, the other arm's a bit...
Oh, look, here's Tommy Hill, an early entrance into Hawthorne. Doesn't quite work.
I tell you what, that's such a difficult place to make a pass stick, is that, Jack. You're going so fast, and you realise that if you get it wrong, it can be disastrous for the pair of you. It's just mentally a difficult place to pass, you know?
James, that's 100 miles an hour in 3rd gear, that entrance into there. Wow.
Yeah, and when something goes wrong there, it just tends to be a really big wrong. Do you know what I mean? I've been off there, and it always hurts.
Right, OK, we're heading towards Clearways then. Dip down underneath the MCA Insurance Bridge and then into Clark Curve. And at the moment, Shaky Byrne riding a composed race at the front for HM Plant Honda.
Yeah, Hopkins looking for a way past now. I think that Byrne and Hill are able to just sneak away from Rutter a bit, and Hopkins is going to be keen to get past Rutter and not lose the toe.
Half distance in the 20 laps. Shaky Byrne up Halewood Hill ahead of Tommy Hill. Then we've got Michael Rutter on the Ducati wrestling with the Samsung Crescent Suzuki for 3rd, and right behind him Michael Laverty inching in. Laverty then lap 1:26.7 again was the fastest of the front men.
Yeah, Hopkins getting a little bit frustrated now. He's trying every single corner. He's cutting to the inside, trying to get up the inside on the brakes of Michael Rutter on the Ducati. You would expect the Samsung Crescent Suzuki to just have a little bit more top end than the Rapid Solicitors Batham's Ducati, and it doesn't seem to have. Nothing wrong with the speed of that Ducati.
When gravity works in the favour of the Ducati as he plummets down Pilgrim's Drop there. Look at this. There's Peter Hickman really coming on some. There's yesterday's winner, Josh Brooks, number 2, on the relentless by Taz Suzuki. Restored to his confident, swashbuckling self, really.
Yeah, and it's actually Brooks as the man who looks like he's on the move a little bit. Right, stuck in behind Kirkham now.
Yes, he said the fastest lap of that lap, 1:26.62, was Josh Brooks. And that's going right through the field. Back to the battle at the front, and Michael Rutter, how composed is Rutter?
Yeah, brilliant.
Just kind of... you can't even visibly that much see what he's doing to frustrate Hopkins, but he's just sitting there in front of him.
Us and other people have written Michael Rutter off every season for the last 5 years, and he keeps coming back. Yeah.
Well, it was back in you know, he was first in really featuring in this championship. 1993, he finished 7th on a Kawasaki, James. Yeah. That was his first full season in the championship.
Yellow thing, I remember it. I was in the championship myself.
And I tell you, that was a long time. You must have been almost a defending champion, in fact.
No, I was champion. No, I was second in. Here you go, Westmoreland.
Oh, James Westmoreland is out on the single motor point Yamaha as we go back to this relentless dice for the lead.
I tell you what, he did that year, you know, Michael Rutter, that in '93. He had a couple of real good rides, one off in World Superbike. You know, when wet conditions, he had some good runs on that. Always a wet weather man. I mean, brilliant in the drive, but really known as a wet weather and dodgy condition specialist was Michael Rutter.
Look at Michael Laverty. He was quickest of this quintet again on that lap, and you now have a 5th rider right in the mix behind Hopkins.
Yeah, and Hopkins has got to watch out here. He needs to be making moves, and he doesn't look like he's as close now as he has been for a couple of laps. And Rutter's going well here.
Rutter's just calmly fended him off so far at half distance. Well, beyond half distance now, we're approaching the completion of lap 12 out of 20. Gowland's up to 12th ahead of Parks on the factory Kawasaki as we see Tommy Hill.
Did you see
dive underneath?
Tommy's gone wide there.
Wide though, yeah, way wide.
Do you know why? He hit the bump where the pit lane joins the track. There's a real big bump, and if you hit the brake on that point, the front brake sort of slows the bike and the rear can leave the floor. Then you've got to release some of the pressure on the front brake lever to get the rear down again, otherwise you're out of control. That's what you have to do. That's what pushed him wide.
It certainly compacted the front five, James.
Yep. Oh, we don't mind.
Oh, here's Hopkins now making a move on Rutter. He's got his impatience finally burst through, and he breaks through at Surtees. Now over the crest of the hill.
I like the way you say Surtees. I like that.
It is a northeastern affliction, emphasising the second syllable. And there is the leader, Shaky Byrne, HM Plant Honda. Behind him, the Swan Yamaha of Tommy Hill, and he'll now know that he's got for company the number 21 Samsung Crescent Suzuki of John Hopkins. Now, Michael Rutter doesn't want to shed too many places, James, and Laverty's going fast on that second Swan Yamaha. Because I've got Chianari at the moment grabbing a precious 2 points in 14th place, just ahead, but only just ahead of Glenn Richards on the second WFR Honda.
Yeah, but I don't think Chianari, from what we've seen, is going to go forward from there much at all.
It's not looking likely. 13 laps complete out of 20 as they cross the line. And look at this, behind them, Ewan Lescores has been caught by Peter Hickman. Here comes Hickman underneath. Josh Brooks looking on with interest.
Hickman goes wide.
Oh, but Hickman goes way wide, and Brooks carves his way underneath and gets both of them. What a fortuitous piece of gambling by the Australian, and Peter Hickman really loses out as they go around Druids. Is he on the right side to dive down underneath the Spaniard into Greymill then? No, not quite. John Kirkham is the 4th man in picture there.
This is a good battle.
This is great stuff going on. Brooks then has now vaulted through into 6th place, James, from the 4th row of the grid. He's not got impatient and hurried, he's just taken his time, and a really committed ride by Josh.
Yeah, it is, and he said he was going to do. I spoke to him on the grid. He said he wasn't upset. He said, look, it can play into your hands or it cannot play into your hands. And this time it hasn't, so yeah, he's quite philosophical about the job.
Graham Gowland now in 12th place. He's just behind Martin Jessup and Gary Mason. He's ahead of Brock Parks, Yuichi Chianari and Glenn Richards.
Yeah, and the yellow plate on his bike, the front of his bike, denotes that that is an Evo bike, not the same spec as all the bikes around him. That's some ride from Gowland, it really is.
So Gowland, who won the Spanish Supersport Championship when he first turned to road racing, went off to Spain, won that championship, did some racing in the World Supersport Championship the following year.
We saw him at Vallelunga, and he had an awesome ride to about 11th at his first attempt.
Yes.
Really impressive.
That was in 2007/8. As we check out Josh Brooks, here's Lescores now being hounded again by Peter Hickman and John Kirkham. Ewan Lescores, who finished 3rd in the World Supersport Championship last year, has spent the first half of this season getting to handle a factory Kawasaki in World Superbike. Still not quite completely 100% fit after that huge accident that wiped him out in the first turn at Silverstone World Supersport last year.
Kirkham's having a bash.
There's two tall lads together. Oh, and Hickman runs wide, and Kirkham says thank you very much and dives through.
Did you see that Hickman ran wide? And what happens is you get up to the dirty part of the track. There's little bits of rubber out there, little bits of dust, and if you get pushed out wide, there just isn't as much grip, and then you lose even more time. You've got to be in the groove, as they say, Jack.
Peter Hickman, of course, riding Chianari stroke. The HM Plant Honda bike from last year, and he's certainly doing well at the moment in terms of where Chianari is right now. He's back in 14th ahead of Glenn Richards, now 15th, and has got the final point ahead of Chris Walker's Primo Kawasaki. And then Barry Burrell on the BMW, the build-based BMW, he's the leading bike, the third place bike in the Evo class. Meanwhile, back at the front, this is Byrne, Hill and Hopkins. Rutter's just dropped off their pace into the 127th. These guys are right back deep into the 127th.
That Mason, is it?
That? Gary Mason might have gone down.
I think it is.
Gary Mason's really damaged his top 6 chances with that spill. He's okay, he's unhurt, but that one...
he's not happy. Hey, and he's got a good punch in him. Mason does all that kind of cage fighting stuff he does.
Yeah.
All right.
And there's Michael Rutter has lost a place to his namesake Michael Laverty, so he gets pushed back to 5th place on the Rapid Solicitors Batham's Ducati. So Hopkins, Byrne, Laverty, that's the fastest lap classification, looking at the grid for next time out later today. Rutter would be on the front row, Josh Brooks would be on the second row with Tommy Hill, Gary Mason, once he's finished punching hay bales, and John Kirkham with Graham Gowland heading up row 3. This is fascinating because it looks as if, at the moment, as if Byrne has kind of weathered the storm. We're at 3/4 race distance, and Shakey's just seemed to have gathered himself back up again. Tommy Hill made that one pass on him that only lasted a matter of yards.
Yeah, and it looks to me like John Hopkins there in 3rd on the Samsung Crescent Suzuki. He's right on the limit just to stay with him. He's sliding it everywhere. I've seen a couple of times where he's lost the rear really mid-corner as he cracks the throttle open, and that's a sign that he's kind of on the edge a little bit.
And all of 3 of them did 126.5s on that lap, James, really evenly matched. Looking back there to Josh Brooks, yesterday's winner, and then we watched John Kirkham trying to ease through on the inside of Johan Lascorza's Kawasaki.
I'll tell you what, if Brooks would have got away with the leading bunch, he'd have been with him. He's been going lap for lap with them time-wise for the last 5 or 6 laps.
That lovely bellow as the bikes go round that 1st or 2nd gear right-hander at Druids Hill Bend. And then bellow down into Graham Hill Bend at the bottom. Jessup's having a good ride. He's lapping faster than that bunch just in front of him. Did 27.1 on the last lap, and he's really pulled them in.
When Jessup decides to go, he's a good rider. Wasn't helped by the fact he got his leg broken by, well, somebody else's accident at Mallory a couple of years ago. But before that, remember, top 5 finisher in BSB.
So that man, Martin Jessup, 10th place, 127.1 second on his last lap, has closed the gap on the trio in front of him, which is Lascors, Kirkham, Hickman. Fastest lap went to Hopkins on lap 4 with a 126.485. At the moment, Shaky Byrne has a 3/10 of a second advantage over Tommy Hill, who has another half second on John Hopkins in 3rd. Completing 17 laps, Shaky Byrne, 3 to go. Hill laps faster at 126.46.
We didn't see it, but look at the time. That is so close. 10th of a sec between them.
So Tommy Hill has reacted. Look at this. Tommy Hill has reacted and has got himself back onto that rear Pirelli tyre of Shaky Byrne.
One thing that we always keep saying about Tommy Hill on that Swan Yamaha, he never, ever, ever gives up. It doesn't matter what happens, he'll just keep going, and you just never know if you do that.
What impresses me about Shaky, James, is the way the Honda picks up out of those turns. He seems to be able to pull a couple of bike lengths instantly off the apex of the turn.
Yeah, that doesn't just mean that the bike's quick. That can be tiny nuances of how the bike's set up, how he steers it into the corner, you know, the exact line he's got coming out the corner, when he can open the throttle, how hard or gently opens the throttle. There's a lot involved that certainly does seem to get that Honda out of the corners.
Yuichi Chianari's in 13th place now. That's worth 3 precious points to the reigning champion. as we have another race on later today, and of course with regard to being in the showdown after Cadwell Park's next round.
And this for me is why you need to be physically fit to do this. These bikes are powerful, 210 brake horsepower, they take some muscling around, but at this stage in quite a long race, 20 laps down here, quite a long way, quite physical, you need to have the mental capacity not to worry about how fit you are, how tired you are, but to concentrate on what you're going to do and where you're going to make your move. It's really important. That's the most important thing about being physically fit, is it gives you the mental capacity when you're tired.
The penultimate lap, Byrne, Hill, Hopkins at the front, Laverty, Rutter, Brooks down to 6th place. The scores, Kirkham, Hickman, Jessup round out the top 10. Gowland clearly leading the Evo class in 11th place. As we watch Martin Jessup now really has closed right down, so ahead of him he's got Kawasaki, Suzuki, Honda. This is great.
It is a good battle this, and it's not over.
Now what was it? The problem for Jessup, James, is where does he figure out a way past this crew, because they're all trying to grab the advantage on one another.
Yeah, but what can happen sometimes, you get at the back of a bunch like that and then number 3 tries to overtake number 2, he's having to go to number 1 and they can all muck each other up, so it definitely isn't over. Anything can happen, even with 1.5 laps to go.
They plunge down Pilgrim's Drop, up Hawthorne Hill on the second last lap of this race. Ahead of them, Shaky Byrne just heads off Tommy Hill and John Hopkins. Michael Laverty has broken clear of Michael Rutter, who's now pretty much on his own in 5th place. At least that guarantees him perhaps a fatally disappointing 11 points, which won't pull him back on par with Kianari, who's suddenly wakened up.
He has,
he's passed Brock
to 12th, yeah.
And he's moved up to a hair-raising 12th place. He'll be getting giddy. So Byrne, Hill, Hopkins cross the line, and Shaky Byrne 0.184 of a second in front of Tommy Hill. This batch are racing for 7th place. Ewan Lascours riding brilliantly at the front on the Kawasaki, as we see Jessup just cleanly go underneath.
This is where it's at though. We've just seen Laverty going through shot. We've just seen Hill and Byrne go through right together. Byrne just in front. Here we go.
Oh, and Tommy Hill's looking for a way through now. He is keen to try and put a move.
Cut back, get right behind, get the slipstream, make use of it, and then come up with a plan. I don't think he's going to get past into Hawthorns. He's close enough, but it's just a real difficult place to pass. Is that?
Tommy's going to have a go. He's done it before. Oh.
No,
close your eyes, boy.
Yeah. It's not over yet, but time is running out a little bit for Tommy Hill. He needs to think about this one in a big way. Sterling's a difficult one, unless you get halfway past
James, he wasn't good through the second half of Westfield.
You're dead right.
He dropped a lot of time.
That might have cost him.
Seemed to get almost a head shake on going through there, and that was just precious inches he lost going through there. On the final lap then, through Stirling's Bend, could Shaky Byrne finally be back in the winner's circle for the first time
I think so.
Since Thruxton?
I think so.
As they come round Clearways into the Clark curve, onto the Brabham Straight, it is another victory at last for Shane Byrne. Shaky Byrne takes victory for HM Plant Honda. 2nd place, Tommy Hill, Swan Yamaha. 3rd place, John Hopkins, Samsung Crescent Suzuki.
Still Lascours.
5th for Rutter, and we've still got Lascours hanging on here as Jessup challenges. So too does John Kirkham. And Lascours is going to hold on to that. The Spaniard crosses the line in 7th place. Jessup grabs it off Kirkham by 0.005 of a second. And Kianari crosses the line just ahead of Brock Parks by a whisker. So Martin Jessup brilliantly somehow managed to just gather enough momentum from the slipstream of John Kirkham to grab 8th place. Shaky Byrne looks well pleased with that in front of his home crowd.
Yeah, first win for a while, he's going to be pleased with it. And he had to work for it.
Everybody did, didn't they? Shaky Byrne, Tommy Hill, John Hopkins, top 3. Then Michael Laverty, Michael Rutter, Josh Brooks, who came through fiendishly well. There's Reg on the right and Harvey Belcher on the left. Harvey said, yeah, we will be taking the battle to the Suzuki, don't worry, this weekend. And he's proved his point today. Or Shaky's proved his point today. Well, that's been impressive, James, because we've seen Shaky really kind of struggling to get the lap times together all weekend, working hard.
Yeah, but it just shows you, the way this grid position for race 2 works, that, there is a lot of strategy in it. Shaky Byrne made the wrong choice on tyres yesterday, came in, really didn't care that way. He did care, but he couldn't do anything about the wrong tyres for the actual race result. But he knew he could come in, put a soft tyre on, get a lap, get on the front row, and this is the result. He wouldn't have done that from a 4th row. Brooks tried, couldn't do it. And to be honest, fair play to Brooks. came through to 6th from the 4th row. That's no mean feat. That's a real hard day at the office for Brooks.
Lascaux 7th, Kirkham 8th. Oh, now that's changed around. They've given Kirkham 8th, Jessup 9th. The timing screen originally had it the other way around. The 5,000ths of a second has gone the other way to John Kirkham on the Suzuki. Jessup demoted to 9th, Hickman 10th.
Can they do that?
I don't know, really. They could change everything. They could say shaky, they'll take you off the top, drop you down to 10th. Graham Gowland wins the Evo class for the 2nd race in a row in 11th, ahead of Yuichi Kiyanari, and now our timing screen's gone altogether. That's extremely helpful, boys. Thank you very much. That's, oh, it's back. So we've got Brock Parks in 13th, Glenn Richards, a WFR Honda Evo Mirror.co.uk Cup winning 1-2 in 2nd place in 14th, ahead of Chris Walker 15th, Barry Burrell Build Base BMW in 16th. Immediately Hopper starts explaining things to Les Pearson, and Les gets that slightly kind of naughty schoolboy being told off look on his face.
That way it's more of a thoughtful face, I think. Shaky's still milking it a little bit, enjoying his win.
Chris Pike's going to be waiting a while there for his man to show up.
Yep. Shaky, he's actually, you know, the mucking about bit, the wheelies and stoppies and burnouts and stuff, Shaky's mega at that. I used to work for a magazine that did a lot of silly stuff on track, and he's really good at it.
There, look, now
this is Jessup and Kirkham.
Oh, that was close, because Jessup had a rush on as they crossed the line, and it looked for a split second to me as if he'd got it. And 5,000ths of a second, it did eventually go to Kirkham, then rider nearer to camera. So against that beautiful bilious sky, we've got Shaky Byrne, the winner, by half a second in the end from Tommy Hill. John Hopkins is 3rd. Michael Laverty in 4th place. Michael Rutter in 5th, ahead of Josh Brooks, Ewan Lascaux. John Kirkham, just from Martin Jessup. Great 4-way scrap there for 7th place, with Peter Hickman on the Tyco Honda. Eventually reduced to 10th after looking really strong in the early stages of the race. Behind the top 10, we've got 11th place and the Mirror.co.uk Evo Cup winner, Graham Gowland, for the 2nd race in the weekend. Kiyanari manages to recuperate to clinch 4 points for 12th, ahead of Brock Parks, 13th. Glenn Richards, the 2nd Evo bike, in 14th. Chris Walker is 15th, ahead of Barry Burrell, Patrick Muff, Scott Smart, Jake Zemke, and Alex Lowe's, who picked himself back up to complete the race. Glenn Allerton, the current leader of the Australian Superbike Championship, stepping in for the injured Tom Tunstall. The Dootson Motorsport BMW ends up 21st, ahead of Aaron Zanotti, Daniel Neen, and then Matteo Mossa, and the guys who went out, Westmoreland, Mason, Kenner, Lowry, Harris and Ellis. The championship standings are rather intriguing. They look like this. The top 5 increasingly looking taken care of. Shaky Byrne 239, John Hopkins 211, Tommy Hill 185, ahead of Michael Laverty on 150. Josh Brooks on 146 now, just 4 points behind Laverty. But look at this, Kiyanari 125, only 6 points ahead of Michael Rutter on 119. Gary Mason did himself a disservice by crashing there. He's only 1 point ahead of John Kirkham, with Peter Hickman in 10th. 11th for Easton, ahead of Baz. They're both absent. Walker, Westmoreland, Dan Linfoot, Martin Jessup now joint 15th, ahead of Lowe's, Richards, Bridewell and Gowland. Off the start, Tommy Hill produced a really, almost absurdly radical move. Squeezed out number 17, Ewan Lascaux, into the first turn. Shaky Byrne, not such a good start for him, but he quickly set about trying to make amends, as we saw Michael Rutter push through hard into 2nd place. Shaky Byrne took advantage, also got past Ewan Lascaux. John Hopkins was beginning to make progress. He too got past the Spaniard into 4th place. And then Shaky Byrne went for the early apex at Druids Hill Bend, got past Michael Rutter, and then set about pulling back the leader with some brilliant moves like that. Look at the way he got the power down early coming out of Graham Hill Bend and set up the move along the Cooper Straight into Surtees. Brilliant riding then by him, as Alex Lowe's ran off course and had to rejoin on the MSS Colchester Kawasaki. not proven a happy birthday, 48th birthday so far for their team boss, Nick Morgan. That was the move in which Tommy Hill grabbed back the lead, ran wide, and that let Shaky Byrne back as John Hopkins decided it was time finally to squeeze past Michael Rutter. Number 81, Graham Gowland, the Northumbrian, picked his way through the superior superbikes and got himself into the points as Gary Mason crashed out. And Tommy Hill in the closing stages came right back to challenge number 67, Shaky Byrne. But despite dangling a leg at Hawthorns, he couldn't quite squeeze underneath. Then he made a mistake at Westfield, and that was pretty much it. Shaky Byrne grabbed his win, the first win since he got victory in the second race at Thruxton. Fourth win of the season then for Shaky Byrne. Michael Rutter looking a little disappointed on the Ducati, but nonetheless he's got himself right into contention for the critical top 6 and the showdown. But the leader in the championship takes the win.
So here we are then with our Mirror.co.uk Evo class winner Graham Gowland. Once again, Graham, you find the top spot of the podium. We saw you having a tussle with the likes of Brooks and people out there. How was it for you?
Yeah, really good. It was going to be a hard race because after the first race yesterday, the times, because we stayed on intermediate, we were way back on the grid, you know. But I had Brooks as my goal. I could see him, and didn't really let the gap get much bigger throughout the whole race. And we came, through some good riders there, some World Superbike riders and everything. And yeah, really happy.
For me, one of the highlights of your season, one of the best rides we've seen you do. We'll let you go to the podium, but very well done.
Very much, cheers.
Graham Gowland there on Team WFR Honda. Our third place finisher in the race proper is John Hopkins. John Hopkins deep in conflab there with Tommy Hill. John, you're having some sort of technical issue with the bike there. It looked like the gear shifter when you came into Parc Ferme, what you were saying to the team.
Yeah, I mean, we're just having a couple little electronic issues. I crashed this morning in the morning warm-up, and yeah, unfortunately, we're just, it wasn't going into neutral in the race, but, we made that. It's not possible, but, I was getting stuck a gear high into a couple corners, but, at the end of the day, those guys are riding awesome, and, and hats off to the team, Samson, Cred, and Suzuki. The bike's been working amazing all weekend, and, yeah, I think we'll get something sorted out, and now I don't think I'm starting from the third row, we'll see, but, yeah, it was hard work in the beginning coming through the field, but always fun, and, yeah, it's just all about putting on a good show, a lot of fans out here, and, yeah, just having a lot of fun.
Taking all that into account, it was a hell of a ride. We'll let you go to the podium. Well done, John Hopkins there, our third place finisher. Now, second place finisher, Tommy Hill. Tommy, that ride for you, you looked like you were stalking Shaky right up until the end. That inside move at Hawthorns, so a bit hairy.
Yeah, it was. And a few people just said, oh, you made a move there earlier on. Do you think that cost you? I'm racing. That's a move, and that's what I want to try and pull, and Shaky was probably better than me in some places, and then I was gaining back in. It was like elastic band. Which obviously winds you up as well, and especially when the tyres started going off. There's a few hairy moments, but yeah, we had a good race. Unlucky there to not get a win, but we've got some more podium credits.
Nice, and we'll let you go to the podium. Well done, Tommy. Tommy Hill, our second place finisher. Now, our race winner, Shane Byrne. Not since the end of May in Thruxton have you been on top of the podium. How good does it feel to be back?
Cool, do you know what? I'll dedicate that to Chris Pike, Nick Goodison, Tom, my whole HM Plant Honda team. We've had probably the most difficult weekend we've had so far. I mean, I think in terms of flying laps yesterday, around the long circuit, we maybe had about 12 or 15 laps in total, and 2 of them were to make sure the thing weren't going to overheat. So we're massively underprepared, and to pull a win out for the boys, I'm chuffed.
OK, we'll let you go to the podium, but Shane Byrne, very well done indeed.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
There you go, Shane Byrne, our Race 2 winner here for this 3-week race weekend here at this weekend. So you've got to say that was an amazing performance from him on the HM Plant Honda. OK, we're going to take a very, very, very short break, but when we come back, we'll bring you the podium action from here and move things on with this hectic afternoon. See you in a couple of moments. Well, welcome back to Brands Hatch. We've just had the first BSB race of the day, the second one of this triple header weekend, and these are live shots from the podium of Shane Byrne. Trying to soak absolutely everybody he can. Shane Byrne taking the win there ahead of Tommy Hill and John Hopkins in third. Let's take a look then at the awards for the speedy fastest lap. These are the league tables. Tommy Hill's bagged another one, so he's on 6 points for that. 6 fastest laps. No lap records over Tommy Hill. Shane Byrne, 3 fastest laps and 1 lap record. Ryuichi Kiyanari, 1 and 1. John Kirkham, 2 fastest laps, no lap records, and Michael Laverty, just the one fastest lap, he sees out the top 5. Right, these are the podium credits then at this stage of the season. As you know, the podium credits get added to the flat scores of 500 for the showdown in the last 3 rounds of the championship. Shane Byrne has 19 now with 4 wins, 1 second and 5 thirds. Tommy Hill just 1 point behind him on 18. John Hopkins just 2 points behind Hill on 16. Richie Chianari 8 and Josh Brooks 7. Michael Rutter though has 5 podium points with 2 seconds and 1 third. So there we go then, that's the second BSB meeting of the weekend out of the way. The first one off today. We've got a third one to bring you, another one later on this afternoon, so make sure you stay around for that. Make sure you also stay around for this